All right, good morning. We're here for our weekly Commissioners Board session. It's Wednesday, September 26, 2018, and we're here in the Senate hearing room, and if you will join us, as we always do, let's say the Pledge of Allegiance together. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Well, that's the second time John and I got to say the Pledge of Allegiance already this morning.
Today?
Yeah, we were at a 6:45 Rotary meeting, telling people what Marion County does for them. So,
Oh, I got there before 6:30.
I could let this slide, but I left the house and I have a flagpole in the front yard, and the flag was wrapped up over the eagle.
so you had to climb the flagpole.
Well,
I want a picture of that.
Oh, parked the car, said that ain't gonna last, and fixed it anyway.
Had to pull the
before
flag down, and yeah.
So I just wanted to let you know that I wouldn't let that happen.
It's always good to think about the blessings that we live in a great country, and to say that pledge. Love doing it. Okay, so we have nobody signed up for public comment this morning, making sure that nobody out there wants to make some public statement. Okay, we're always welcome to hear and listen. So I believe it might be your turn for the consent calendar.
Well, getting pretty good at it.
Forever.
Chair Cameron, I'd make a motion we approve the consent calendar this morning. And on it or in it, under Board of Commissioners, we approve an order updating Policy 203, appointments to advisory boards, and updating Policy 209, bylaws of advisory boards. Approve an order updating Policy 212, county litigation defense. In Community Services, approve an order reappointing Sue Bloom, Jane Downey, Troy Gregg, Levy Herrera Lopez, Karina Lee, Pete McCallum, Carrie Mueller, Cheryl Pellegrini, Eric Richards, Shaney Starr, Jamie Arredondo, and Alan Pollock to the Children and Families Commission. Approve an order appointing Kenneth Outfleet as Marion County Fair Board Key Volunteer. And under Public Works, approve an order reappointing Zachary Deal and Mark Grins to the Marion County Water Quality Advisory Committee with terms ending September 30th, 2022.
And I'll second your motion. Excuse me. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right. Our first action item today is under Community Services, and I believe Tamara's here to consider approval of the changes to Marion County Fair Board bylaws. Welcome, Tamara.
Good morning. For the record, I'm Tamara Getch, Director for Community Services, and the item before you are recommended changes to the bylaws for the Marion County Fair Board. For the last couple of months, the Fair Board has been looking at its operations and trying to determine how to best support and protect our county fair in its planning stages. And in so doing, they have recommended some changes to some language within their bylaws. In your packet, on an item that is the page that is listed as page 3, under section 4.6 under duties, there has been an adjustment to about the middle of that paragraph. I'll read the adjustment that has been added. It says, members are expected to attend and participate in all scheduled meetings. More than 2 absences in any 12-month period may be considered good cause for removal of a board member or of a member from the Fair Board. Attendance through telephone and electronically by conference call in the manner consistent with section 7.2 of these bylaws may be allowed, but for no more than 2 meetings in any 12-month period. And the purpose, it may feel like to some that this is kind of strict. Fair, we only have 12 months to plan this huge event that happens in early July of each year. And the Fair Board members felt that it was really important to sit shoulder to shoulder with their fellow Fair Board members in the planning stage, and that if you were gone more than what is recommended within these bylaws, it can hamper or hinder the development of a successful fair. And wanting to ensure that everyone is successful in putting this event on, they felt that having 2 absences and then being able to participate in 2 meetings through an electronic device would be more than enough. And that if the conversation was that if you had to be gone more than that, perhaps as a member, you needed to look at what your priorities were in your life. And if family needed your attention, perhaps that is where you needed to give your time, or work, or whatever the case may be. And so this did go to the last Fair Board meeting. It was reviewed and approved, or recommended for approval from the Fair Board. The other change, to follow up on that, as mentioned in the edits, is in section 7.2, and the added language is, member attendance by conference call is limited to no more than 2 meetings in any 12-month period. So that is just to make sure that throughout the bylaws, it's supportive and reflective in the areas that is needed for these adjustments. And I'm open to any questions that you might have.
Any questions?
I don't really have any questions. This is just trying to make sure people attend, participate, and have to be in favor of that.
Yeah, and I see that you have that in there twice about the phone-in meetings, but I do want to make a comment, and I think we both agree on this, that this board is one of those boards that's not only advisory, but active and work really hard, put in a lot of hours to make our fair actually go off. And we really appreciate their service and your department's service to make that fair happen. It's no easy task. It takes a lot of work. So I'm ready, if you're ready for a motion.
Okay, Chair Cameron, I make a motion, we do approve the changes to the Marion County Fair Board bylaws as presented.
I'll second your motion. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thanks, Tamara.
Thank you.
She's on next.
You're up again with Tom, so we're going to consider approval of an order adopting Marion County Economic Strategic Plan, which we
Yes, so Tom's going to carry the majority of the presentation, but just for the viewers' audience, just wanted to give context. We're talking about the fair, and then now we're talking about economic development. In our department, we have 6 different program areas that we focus on, and each area is underneath the department, but it has its own goals and priorities. So with the economic development, we've been working hard under Tom's guidance and coordination of efforts in the area of economic development. He's been working with staff as well as community members as well as the commissioners to bring forward some recommendations that will lead our department and the county over the next 5 years. So with that, Tom?
Good morning, Commissioners. For the record, Tom Hogue, Economic Development and Community Services Department. We've been working on this plan for over a year, and so the Community Services Economic Development Team is pleased to present the Marion County Economic Strategy. The plan was developed over several months with the help of many stakeholders. The plan shapes future activities and investments in 5 goal areas, and I'll talk about those a little bit later. This plan and the lottery fund budget will help us talk about what's important and what we're doing to make those things happen. So Marion County has a unique role in economic development. We bridge rural and urban communities to the identification and implementation of goals and actions to achieve a common vision. Economic development stakeholders want and need the county to serve as a convener and a manager of the strategy and the action plan to ensure that multiple stakeholders are engaged in working toward a common vision. Marion County's role will include the following elements. We'll invest our grant dollars in alignment with the strategic goals. We'll drive and encourage innovative and collaborative solutions, monitor and implement the action plan, of course, influence policy tied to the strategic goals, convene and coordinate opportunities, and manage the land inventory. I want to talk a little bit about the 5 goals. That's really the structure of the strategic plan. The first goal is build organizational capacity. That means both internally and externally with our partners. I think especially in the first year and months, that will be the challenge, is trying to say, are we Are we going to push on the status quo a little bit and do new things in new ways in order to achieve these goals? I think the answer is going to be yes, and it's going to be fun, I think, to do that. Second goal is the strategic use of land. You've heard me say before, the county is the primary land manager, both in, of course, in the rural areas where we have jurisdiction, but also in collaboration with our cities in their urban development. Create business opportunities is primarily a use of our lottery funds to invest in opportunities. The plan is sort of pushing towards smaller business startups as a use of fund. We want to increase innovation, and we want to increase business creation, especially in our smaller communities. Enhance natural resource innovation. So Marion County is the #1 farm gate county in the state of Oregon, has a thriving timber products industry. So those two things are going to be worthy of attention and investment. And due to recent events, water has come on the agenda, and I think that's going to be a key driver of what the county's future role is in helping ag and timber move forward. And then foster a great place. That's really helping the smaller communities, primarily on Main Street, but with other things that cities do to make it a worthwhile and enjoyable place to live and work and create a business. So this plan is intended to be the Marion County Economic Plan. Adoption of this document and the 5 goals should provide the impetus across the organization for the challenging work ahead. The strategy will guide the use of video lottery sources, economic development staff work plans, related activities across county departments, and activities with external partners. County staff, consultants, and internal and external stakeholders have been working on this since the fall of last year, and it was most recently presented to department heads and elected officials to have the last go at this, and so we're pleased to put this in front of you and ask for your approval. Thank you.
Thank you. It's a lot of work's gone into this. Commissioner, you have a question?
Well, I do, and I think you're going to be an easy answer, because I'm still naive and just, it's really simple. When I think economic development, it's recruitment and retention of businesses and labor availability training. And I can kind of build it into some of the 5 goals, but just convince me that basic is covered in your plan.
So one way to think about economic development is sort of setting the table for other people's successes. Mm-hmm. And that takes a lot of forms, and we traditionally, as local governments, deal with infrastructure and land use. That's you're very familiar with that. Adding investment opportunities and innovation to that package helps as economic activities transition to whatever happens next. And so we make those investments and put those staff resources to those tasks to help those things thrive. It's not that we're doing it for them necessarily, but we are their active partner.
Okay.
And I think that when you simplify it like that, it's attracting and retaining, helping existing businesses grow. And I think some of the great examples that are happening, but not necessarily strategically. We take and we've got planning here in Public Works here in the urban growth expansion in Donald that just went through, and how that strategically happened, and we approved that. And yet, when you think of the businesses that are up there that we're trying to help support, retain, expand, you've got Wilco, the new facility they've done up there. You've got GK Machines, which is very ag-related from a supply chain manufacturing. So I think some of this will, when you talk about strategic land use and building organizational capacity and allowing the business create opportunity, I think it's we're just really lined up, and I really appreciate it's taken a year, right, over a year to get to this point where we're looking at this. And I know in the past it's maybe been difficult to say no to certain things, and this will give us the ability to say yes to the right things, and other things we're going to have to help people find other ways to do, because we need to how do you say this, our limited resources that we have, strategically put those in the right place. And our Public Works Department, our Planning Department has been involved in this, and it's really good to see that the silos break down. And I think one of the things that the department head and elected officials meeting was, and I stressed this, that our ability to set the table for businesses to expand and invest allows us to provide the services that other people need, that those businesses pay the taxes, the property taxes, to be able to do that, whether it's the sheriff's department or the health department, the other things. So this is our sales department, our revenue generator is these businesses that are successful. So glad to see this come forward.
And Commissioner Brentano, just directly to your question, a healthy workforce is mentioned throughout
Yeah.
the document, as well as really creating those healthy, thriving communities that encourage people to come to our county, not only to work, but also to live and thrive and raise their families here. So when we're changing not only a business environment, but a community-based environment, it really becomes how do we sell Marion County to others and for those businesses to come here, as well as their workforce, new workforce, existing workforce, and to really be able to have that support that's not just business-centric, but really community-centric.
John, you have any comments on this? You're good? You always have a comment to me about economic development, and you always have wisdom that I never have thought of before, so I just wanted to make sure you didn't have one of those thoughts in your head that you wanted to share.
As long as Commissioner Brentano is okay, I'm okay.
You're okay with it? Okay.
It takes two commissioners to make these decisions,
yeah.
not just one.
I'm excited about approving this plan today because we were in front of Rotary this morning and I said we were going to approve, we have a draft plan that we were going to approve very soon, and today is the day we're going to do that. So,
You know, I'm all for it, but suddenly I think maybe we ought to spend some more time.
oh my gosh.
No, Chair Cameron, I am all for it.
Yeah.
This is strategic and sophisticated, far above what we've been doing. So I'd make a motion that we do approve an order that adopts Marion County economic strategy.
I'll second the motion. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right.
Thank
Now,
Thank
now the
you.
work begins. Thank you. So next on our list is under Information Technology, and Scott Emery is here. Consider approval of the purchase order contract with SHI International Corporation for $298,336.50 for purchasing Microsoft user licenses through August 31st, 2021. Good morning, Scott.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Mr. Chair, if I could interrupt, I thought it'd be important for Scott to come and talk to you about what Microsoft is doing and what it means to the county in the future. This is just the beginning.
Very good.
For the segue, Scott Emery, Information Technology Director, and I'm here to actually start off the conversation with a multiple phase type effort, as John alluded to, with respect to actually protecting and securing and supporting those systems that are vital to our county employees. This particular challenge that we had is today we have disparate tools and systems to manage our fleet of computers, and this allows us to start to put them into a central ecosystem that not only helps us make sure that we secure, but we also can configure them appropriately and make sure that, again, they're operating as most efficiently as they possibly can. This is a pretty significant first step. And I point that out because we have such built-up demand and pressure by our departments to be able to be more mobile, more flexible, to be able to meet those needs of the citizens. And so this is that first vital step. We'll see more work coming in the next 3 years that includes everything from operating system updates to supporting other devices that we currently don't do, such as Apple iPads that I've heard a lot about. This is off of a state master contract, so the rates are consistent with government rates through Microsoft, and I'm certainly more than happy to answer any and all questions you might have to get this approved.
I don't have any problem with it. I didn't hear,
No.
hear John's. So what are they doing? Just tightening up license requirements and uses? Is that all?
Well, every time you turn around, Microsoft changes what they're about. And we've had long discussions with department heads about how we're going to implement some of the changes. There's a thing called 365 that we're probably going to get into with Microsoft, and I would rather have Scott explain it because I'd mess it up.
Right. Well, and I'll try to look at it a little deeper without getting too technical.
Yes, thank
Right.
you.
Well, sooner or later, I'll get you guys to be technical experts, so I'm not concerned. Today, when we go off and we do computer acquisitions, they're one-time purchases. We purchase a license at a point in the time, and what that causes over time is fragmentation. We have different users using different versions of the Microsoft Office products. So now when we start to share just basic simple things like Excel sheets and other files, there's compatibility issues. This is the first stepping stone to get that alignment on those Office documentations that are critical and vital to the county in the way that we operate. But it's just the beginning, because if we want to be able to replace our email and calendaring system, again, we have to get consistency on those endpoint computers so that now that when we actually convert over into the newer Microsoft email systems, our telephone mobile sync support is consistent, it's streamlined, it's efficient. Today we have a lot of fragmentation. We have different tools that were procured over different generations that were different point designs. So it's kind of a, not just disparate, but kind of a web of pieces, bits and pieces that we've managed to keep up and operating. But we're now at the point where it's starting to fall under its own infrastructure. Very much legacy, very much out of date, very much not supported by the vendor community. So in essence, this is really for the first time getting it such that rather than having one-time purchases, we have ongoing support from Microsoft 24/7. We actually have user training that's part of this that we get every year for our staff so that we can make sure that we have the latest knowledge and skill in and around how we support those systems. It's really going away from just the one-time purchase to a continuous support model.
Mr. Chair?
Sure.
It's going to be expensive, and I think I've told you that several times, but it also is extremely expensive to try and maintain all these disparate, fragmented systems around the county. So as we work to try and integrate, it'll make it much less expensive to manage the systems we have. And some 14, 15 departments with a whole variety of needs. If you look at some of the computer needs for the Department for Public Works, I mean, they have systems out there that are very technically different from what you and I use in our office. So in the long run, though, we want them to be able to communicate effectively, but we also want them to be secure, which is what we're heading for.
So I'll just make a comment. I know that the dollar amount on the approval is a 3-year contract, so it's just under $100,000 per year for the entire county.
Correct, and that is underneath the authorized capital investment plan that we had submitted for the budget.
Right, and then also reading the contract, this I was hoping we were going to go to Outlook under this contract, but I just read what it is. It's cloud services. I mean, it's right there on 1.2, first bullet point of what it actually gives us. So it's actually going to give us what we're currently doing, but put us under, as I would on a personal basis, the online subscription to Microsoft where I get all the updates and all that stuff, and it's just going to be multiple.
Correct. Rather than
But
being
it gets us all up to the same pace, which allows us to go to the next move.
right. The first step is to get unification
Yeah.
across our platforms. The next is now to start to incrementally add in those capabilities that we currently don't have,
Like Outlook.
like our Outlook calendaring. Yes.
It doesn't really matter to me anyways, John, you know that?
Yes,
Sam,
I
go ahead.
know. You have somebody else do it for you.
Commissioner? I don't need more sarcasm.
No,
No,
if I think of it, this is naive, and that's just where I play, certainly on this subject, but I can look back and think of the machines and programs that have been bought over the last 20 years, dribble in, dribble out, break. In my own company, what I did was like buy a whole fleet, and I was in the garbage business, so I'd buy, like 4 Dropbox trucks, all the same time. You could count on the same parts. Would that be helpful? Is that a strategy that we could do, and you not get into the bits and pieces?
The good news is the county's already taken that first step. It's what we call our life cycle replacement. So if we're talking about hardware, we've already gone into that area and now have a 5-year plan so that every fifth year, we're making sure that we're uniformly updating the equipment. It's the right time horizon. It's what's recommended in the industry. It's what's most efficient from a cost perspective for the county. The hardware side, I think we have down. We have that nailed down. The software is where we have the challenge. Every time we add a new employee, regardless of the department, there's a collection of software that they need. Today, we have to go and manually install it on each and every one of those systems. Tomorrow, with this capability, we can now actually manage it remotely and do the install. Again, that's just like a level of efficiency, but the reality is it gets to that uniformity that we were talking about, making sure that we're all at the same level. To go out today...
I know, replace everything, no.
You're right, especially on software. That's the key. John alluded to how each department is unique and runs. We have over 1,000 different unique applications that the IT department has to support. We believe that footprint can come down significantly because we think there's overlap between these departments, but we haven't had the opportunity to go through and look at that efficiency of actually getting alignment and reducing the number of applications out there running. Inventory is inventory as an example. Then why would we have different inventory tool at each department? It doesn't really seem to make a lot of sense. So this is that first stepping stone of being able to see what assets we already own, do a mapping gap, and then start to now squeeze that footprint down.
Okay, thank you.
Good.
Ready?
I am.
All right. Then I would like Chair Cameron to make a motion that we approve a purchase order contract with SHI, here's my problem, got to be able to read it, International Corporation for $298,336.50 for purchasing Microsoft user licenses through August 31st, 2021.
I'll second the motion. Any further discussion? I think the 50 cents is for my
Was it?
computer.
We could contribute.
Right.
That's all you're going to get.
That's all I get. All right, any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, Scott, thank you very much.
And thank you for
Making
your ongoing
progress.
support.
Thank the citizens for allowing us to do this too. Okay, under Public Works, and Brian is here with us this morning. Consider approval of the incoming funds intergovernmental agreement with the City of Donald for $210,000 for Public Works to provide design and construction for sidewalk and pedestrian ramp improvements on Main Street and Donald Road. Ooh,
Good morning,
a
Commissioners.
little show and tell.
Yep, I've got a short presentation. There we go. All right. Brian Nicholas, Capital Projects Manager, Marion County Public Works. We have county roads that are located within the city limits of 18 of our 20 incorporated cities. And we have a longstanding policy.
Brian, not to interrupt you, which two do not have county roads in them?
Well, City of Salem, they're one of the outliers, and I can't tell you what the other one is. I forget
Probably
what, I
wouldn't.
forget which one the other one is. But we've had a longstanding policy where the county maintains the travelway of the road, so basically the pavement, and we allocate maintenance of any city improvements like sidewalks and ADA ramps, that sort of thing, for the cities to maintain. So it's been a longstanding policy for the county, and it affects virtually all of our cities. It creates an issue that we wrestle with on our resurfacing program, and that is we are now in an environment where we can no longer just go through and pave our streets without paying attention to accessibility for folks that are handicapped, either physically or visually handicapped as well as physically handicapped. And it makes it more difficult to go in and repave streets within city limits, or our roads within city limits, because a lot of the city infrastructure is substandard. So about 2 summers ago, on our resurfacing program, Main Street in Donald, which on our system is Donald Road, it was in need of some attention. We would have preferably gone in and done a a mill, what's called a mill and inlay. We would have brought in a big mill, milled down the entire street, and put a brand-new asphalt surface on the street. It was getting pretty bad. The problem with that is none of the city sidewalks and ADA or pedestrian ramps meet ADA requirements. So we did what we could for the time being. We did some patching work to make sure we didn't lose any of our pavements there. And at the same time, I approached Heidi Bell, the city manager, with an idea for a project, or at least a pilot project. And so the concept was that the cities have access, smaller cities have access to some funding sources that we don't have access to. We have access to engineering and putting plans together. We can contract work, that sort of thing. So I asked her if she would be willing, if the city would be willing to pursue funding through the small city allotment program for improving ADA ramps. The county would go ahead and design a project for the city to use those funds to improve the ADA ramps, and we would roll it into our annual sidewalk project. So the advantages to the city would be, it would be a much easier lift for them engineering. They wouldn't have to put out their standalone project, and they would get the advantage of sort of volume pricing that we get with our larger projects just by incorporating it into a larger contract. And the city did that. They went out and they got their SCA funds and asked ODOT to consider doing something they had never done before, which was use those SCA funds to fund an ADA improvement project. SCA funds historically have been used almost entirely for just paving projects. One of the ideas behind that program is it helps small cities that don't have the budget to just keep their streets paved so their streets don't fall apart. The hang up here is the county really needs to maintain the asphalt on the street, but we can't do it without the ADA ramps being improved. So ODOT bought into the idea that, hey, this would be a worthwhile endeavor. So we, as part of the city's application for that small city allotment grant, we included a letter committing the county to go ahead and do that paving project that's on our books and is planned for the future. So the city got their grant to improve the corner ramps using those SCA funds. So that's a lot of the background about this project. I'll go through a little bit about what the proposed project entails, some of the sources of the funding and the budget and the schedule and that sort of thing. But it's kind of important to understand that background to understand what's driving the project. So this is an original plat map from the city of Donald. In the city, that's called Main Street. On our system, it's the Donald Road. As originally platted, it was called Bitora Road, and it's actually part of our Market Road system. It's Market Road number 61. So Main Street goes by a lot of names. And here's an aerial picture of Main Street. And this is the extent of the project. Over on the left, I use the mouse as a cursor. Over on the left, this is Butteville Road. And right here, right off the edge of the picture is Portland Western Railroad. So the proposed project would run from this intersection all the way up to the railroad tracks, would not include improvements across the railroad track. That's a little bit beyond, a larger bite than we wanted to take on this project.
Is north on the top, Brian?
North is,
okay.
yes, north is at the top of the picture. So once the city had the funding for the ADA ramps, they started to think, well, hey, streetscape is important to us. This really is their downtown core. And you can see right now they have a lot of trees on a few of their blocks, but this is the main 3.5 blocks in the center of town. They started to think, well, what else? What are the resources? If we're going to do a project to upgrade the ADA ramps, do they have the resources to make it a larger project and replace more of their infrastructure? And in fact, they do. Here's a little snapshot of some of the issues that they're dealing with. So here's our issue. It's the pavement and the deteriorating pavement condition, particularly around crosswalks and stuff, places where ADA compliance is mandatory. The city has quite a few segments where there's obstructions in the sidewalk. Here's one of their ADA ramps. I think that might dump somebody in a wheelchair right out of their chair if they tried to go down that ramp. We have some corners where there are no ramps at all. Failing non-traversable sidewalks, here's a couple examples of that. And even some of our ramps, some of the corners where there are ramps, we've got storm drains right in the middle of the ramps. That's a classic problem. So all of those are barriers to ADA passage or multimodal passage. What's the proposed project going to do? Well, the number one thing it will do is reconstruct the ADA ramps between Butteville Road and the Portland Western Railroad tracks. That is a win for the county because now that issue is resolved and we can maintain the pavement just like we should be doing. And that's the big win for the county. That's the whole reason why we're involved in the project and proposed this approach to the city. The city has some extra funding they're going to put into the project so they can replace some of the areas of failed sidewalk that we just saw in the slides there. And there's a number of storefronts that right now they've got some scraggly grass planting strip along the street. They'd like to fill in some of those areas with what's called cafe seating areas. So businesses actually have a broad area of flat work out in front of their business. So restaurants, that tends to encourage restaurants to move in because now they have more options for outdoor seating. So they want to include that as an enhancement using their funds. And the other thing you'll notice is they really want to maintain a tree-scaped main drive through town. So the project is going to install tree wells. So those are concrete boxes with no bottoms. We can add irrigation to those, or the city can. And what that does is it forces trees to grow with their roots going down and then out. It forces trees to grow a root structure that's deep enough it doesn't tear up the sidewalks once you've built them. So a pretty inexpensive measure to protect your investment if you're going to put in money into this investment. All of this will be followed by another project. In our paving program, we have a resurfacing project for Main Street set for the summer of 2020. So that's what we want to try to tackle with this project. Here's a breakdown of the budget and the schedule. So the city was able to get a $50,000 small city allotment grant that pays for the ADA ramps. Interesting enough, with passage of House Bill 2017, ODOT has actually increased that cap, the maximum amount that can be allotted or awarded in the SCA program, to $100,000 per project. So now cities are really starting to get some grant funds that they can make some significant impacts on their systems. The city is chipping in another $170,000 from their general funds, plus SDC proceeds that they have accumulated. So they've established a budget of $210,000. The idea is the county will design the project. Like I said, we'll roll it into our bid for the 2019 construction season, and this would become one of our sidewalk projects in our overall sidewalk program. And we've slated about $200,000 in our sidewalk program for this fiscal year and next fiscal year that will roll into a summer 2017 construction program. 2019, sorry. So the schedule is, we're ready to design this right now. And the idea is we would bid this in January, have a contract that spans fiscal years. A certain number of the construction sites would be slated for this fiscal year with the contract completion before June 30th. And that same contractor would roll into a summer season of project sites that would be done in next fiscal year. So the idea is to get volume pricing and really get the most bang for this $210,000 that the city has available. Like I said, it's worthwhile to us because it knocks one of our long list of roads off of the list that we're really not able to maintain the way we want to because of these ADA limitations. So that is it. Are there any questions I can answer for you?
Commissioner?
Not questions, but I'd start out, Brian, thanks. It sounds like you had a great involvement in thinking and coordinating all these to make it all work, and that's great. But this is just, it's really good. With Donald set, we just approved the urban growth boundary,
right.
Growth in new people, new homes. Let's make the downtown nice if we can help out and let Donald bloom, so.
And the
I know
Donald
they have
Cafe can have outdoor seating?
I'll
Wouldn't
join you there.
Wouldn't that be nice?
Yes.
Find a place to go duck hunting or something? Yeah. Oh, be fun. They have good food.
So, unless you have something else, I'm not quite sure what they want, but I'll take the recommendation to approve option one that allows the project to proceed in time for bidding and construction during the 2019 construction season. That's my motion.
All right, I'll second the motion. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, okay. Thanks, Brian.
Thank you.
Nice work. I'm sure Heidi's going to be excited up there, and the mayor.
Yep.
Mayor Armstead, yep. Okay, next on our list is receive a consider an appeal of hearings officer decision denying partition case number 18-011 O'Brien, clerk's file number 5759. Good morning, Joe.
Good morning, Commissioners. For the record, Joe Fenimore. This item before you is an application to divide a 9.7-acre parcel in a special agriculture zone into 3 parcels under Measure 49 waivers that were granted by the state. On May 9, 2018, the planning director issued a decision approving the request subject to conditions. The applicant appealed that decision to the hearings officer, who conducted a public hearing on June 21st. On August 29th, issued a decision denying the request. On September 13th, the hearings officer's decision was appealed to the board. In the appeal of the planning director's decision, the hearings officer, the appeal of the planning director's decision to the hearings officer was based on 2 conditions related to road improvements. The applicant objected to. Condition 3A required the applicant to obtain safe vehicle access, including adequate sight distance at the intersection of O'Brien and Jory Hill Road. Condition 3C that was objected to required the applicant to improve O'Brien Avenue to public works standards from the intersection of Jory Hill Road to its northern property line, which is about 600 feet, or about 1,000 feet total. Although the appeal was based on those 2 conditions, the hearings officer considers the entire application. The hearings officer explains in finding 8.2 on page 7 that health and safety provisions are not exempt from Measure 49 waivers. And then in finding 13 on page 14, the hearings officer discusses the contested conditions and states that that O'Brien Avenue safety standards are currently not met, but also are not waived under the Measure 49 order. The hearings officer then concluded that based on the evidence in the record, she could not make sufficient findings to justify the conditions A and C, but she also could not approve the application if the public safety standards cannot be met. So almost like a catch-22. In the appeal, the applicant argues that the hearings officer's conclusion the public safety requirements are not met is unfounded and the decision should be reversed. That the hearings officer made engineering and design findings without the benefit of a detailed design analysis and relied on inaccurate information onto what was required of previous developments having the same on the same street. The applicant argues that in a previous partition across the street, which was partition case 2004-18, site distance and road improvements were not required, and that there have been no new or changed circumstances to warrant the conditions in this case, and that the impacts of the 2 additional dwellings do not support the exaction of the conditions. The applicant states they are willing to widen O'Brien Avenue from Jory Hill to the point of access to these properties, which is about 500 feet, as long as right-of-way exists, and they will widen the gravel portion of O'Brien along their property frontage. Staff confirmed with the applicant's attorney that if the appeal is accepted, they will extend the 150-day decision-making deadline, and they have hired an engineer and expect to submit additional information for the board to consider at a public hearing. The board has the option of accepting the appeal, remanding the matter back to the hearings officer, accept the appeal and schedule a public hearing at a later date, deny the appeal, and uphold the hearings officer's decision denying the request. Staff recommends option 2, that the board accept the appeal and schedule a public hearing at a later date. I'll be happy to answer questions.
Thanks, Joe. Questions, Sam?
Well, I see the recommendation to deny the case, or at a hearing, and give them what they want, basically, and I'll make it just right. But is there any real likelihood they can do that? When it's a site distance issues, I don't know how engineering can suddenly say it's better. It either is safe or it isn't. So what are we going to get into?
We'd have to wait and see what their engineer comes up with.
And you don't have any idea?
I don't know what it would be, no, not at this point.
But it's quite likely it still won't be adequate?
It's possible, yes.
Okay. All right, then I'll just end by saying, I guess we'll give them their chance and hope it works out. I guess you're not supposed to say how I lean, but you can tell, going to have to prove something.
Sure. It sounds like they have worked with our people since this was denied, saying we would make some other improvements that they think would, if their engineer comes back with these, would be good. Is that what I'm hearing?
My understanding is if the appeal is accepted, they will do that, yes.
Yeah, okay.
And
Sounds
do
good.
do you have a public hearing date in mind then?
I do not because they need to get the engineer out there to do the work. You know,
All right.
and once they get a date, I'll work with them and Chrissy to get the hearing scheduled.
So Chair Cameron, then officially I would make a motion to accept the appeal and schedule a public hearing, period.
Okay, I'll second your motion. And any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Joe. So that concludes our business today. I will read the calendar of upcoming times and places where two or more commissioners will potentially be together. Starting on Monday, the 1st, at Calendar Review, 8:30 a.m. here in this building at 555 Court Street in the Silverton Conference Room. Monday at 9 a.m., same location, a management update. Tuesday at 11 a.m., Marion County Public Safety Coordinating Council Planning Meeting here on the 5th floor in the Silverton Conference Room at 11 a.m. Wednesday, back here at 9 a.m. for our board session. Wednesday, the 3rd at noon, Woodburn Marion County meeting at Luis's Taqueria, 523 Front Street in Woodburn. Wednesday, the 3rd at 2 p.m., Marion County Advisory Board training here in the Senate hearing room at 555 Court Street. And on Wednesday at 5:30, Marion County Fair Board location Commissioners Boardroom on the 5th floor here at 555 Court Street. Was a big week.
Well, there's one coming up, but I would like to kind of mention it, that I'd like people to be there and have a positive experience with a town hall meeting in East Salem. I believe it's October 9th is the only thing. It's the following week. And I just kind of want to make people know about it, and all three commissioners will be there, and presentations to talk about new and especially relevant to East Salem.
Yeah, we'll be having our monthly Marion County Public Safety Coordinating Council meeting there that Commissioner Carlson and I co-chair. We'll have a 1-hour meeting between 5 and 6, and then take a half-hour break and start at 6:30 on the 9th. We do encourage participation. We're going to have Sheriff's Department, Public Works, Community Services, Animal Shelter. We're going to have Environmental Services talking about recycling. In fact, tonight I'm going to attend, I believe Kaiser, I think it's their chamber, is having a recycling, workshop up in Kaiser. I'm going to go up there and hear what people are saying. Obviously, the recycle thing is not just us here in Marion County. It's nationwide, worldwide, and it's top of the mind of everybody. And there's some things that we can continue to do to educate people to clean up that stream of recycle. So
If I can
interesting.
interrupt,
Yeah,
you know,
please
that
do.
was on Channel 8 this morning.
Oh, I
in the
didn't see that.
In the
No, what was it?
article about, in the Statesman, and people are confused, but the reality is if just a certain few items can be moved, and it's so wrong to be collecting them and sorting them out and throwing it away, and so much more expensive. They had comments underneath about the collectors are getting paid for this stuff. Well, the price of those recyclable materials never did pay for the program. So, and that's when you can sell them. So if you can't sell them at all. I do note, spent some time with Bob Main, a commissioner from Coos County, and I don't want to go there, but if we can't get it cleaned up, I got to lay it out as an idea.
Oh, they took it away.
Well, they quit all recycling except for the basics of newspaper and cardboard. And that's pretty
Wow.
cut and dried.
That goes back 20, 25 years, doesn't it?
Yes, it does. It's not where I want to go, but if it can't be cleaned up and isn't sellable or isn't truly recyclable, maybe you got to start all over.
Wow, it's tough issue, and I think, you know, one of the things I said yesterday, I was doing a recording, I did say the 3 R's of, you know, of master recycling class I took, it's, you know, it's the 3 R's. It's reducing, reusing, and then recycling. And I think that's one of the things we got to figure out how to do is continue to reduce what we actually consume. And with today's world of Amazon, you know, every cardboard box and plastic and all that, you know, it's convenient, but it doesn't necessarily help us reduce. I like to go to, and I probably should be careful where I say I shop, but there's a store in town where I can buy bulk foods and bring my own things to refill. It's pretty cool. So you wouldn't know about those things.
It's kind of not my, no, shopping isn't my deal, so.
I
In
like
fact,
to
the
cook.
wife won't let me go, and she's like impulse.
I like to
Got lots of
cook.
batteries. You always need batteries.
I like to cook. Yeah.
All right.
Anything else? Want to? Okay. Well,
Pretty happy.
we are going to adjourn.